Short Game here, coming at you with another episode from ChooseYourRelationships.com, off of Love Can't Wait, which can be found on Amazon.com. And the question of the day is, what happens when you're dating a woman in the early stages and you can't fulfill all of her sexual needs and desires, and what can potentially happen in the long term as well? Well, you know, if you can't please your woman, especially somebody that you met in the beginning, that presents a lot of problems. So let's put something in perspective. Now, sexually, you cannot fulfill and please every woman, every man you meet. It's impossible. You don't have chemistry. You're not going to have chemistry with every woman or every man that you meet. It's impossible. I don't care if you got that. If you got the thunder, there's a lot of women out here that think they got the thunder clap, that they can drop it like it's hot and every guy's gonna be all into them. It's not gonna happen. Every guy that thinks that, he's bone crusher, and every woman, has what he needs, and every woman's gonna like it, doesn't happen that way. There's some women I've met out here, at least two of them in my lifetime. There's nothing I can do to satisfy them. Nothing. And that's because there's some women out here that are just not into sex. They're just not into guys. They don't really want anything to do with a guy. They're just not really into having sex with anybody. And a lot of times that has to do with, there's a lot of women that's in the closet. That has a lot to do with it. There's a lot of women that they'll be around a man all day. They'll get married to a man, date a man, but they're not really into the man. And that has a lot to do with them opening up sexually as well. So a lot of times, if you can't please a woman, it's not really your fault. It's really her, because she's not really into it mentally. Her mind is elsewhere. And those two women that I met, that had a lot to do with it. And one of the women that I met, she actually admitted to it. So I appreciated her being so open and honest at the time. But sex is very important, especially for women. And men love it too, but women love it even more. And you can't please everybody. You're not going to be compatible with everybody. And in most cases, in the early stages of meeting a woman, I would say, based on my experience, if you have sex with a woman twice and you don't please her, you probably won't get a third chance. Because after the second time, the first time it's kind of like, it's a new experience. You might be nervous or whatever. You're still learning each other. You hang around each other. It's okay. You kind of get a pass. The second time, things usually get better. So it's kind of like, okay, we're on the right path or whatever. Now, if a woman feels like the sex didn't get better the second time, based on the first time y'all had sex, you probably won't get a third shot, 9 times out of 10. And a lot of women don't really know how to talk to a guy about the sex. A lot of women will just cut the guy off. Stop talking to him, don't answer his calls, no text, no email, no contact. They'll just cut the guy off and just don't talk to him no more. And then because she don't want to hurt his feelings or whatever the case is. But that's just a cheap way out, just to justify why she had to cut him off. It's very rude, you know. But then you got a small group of women will say something like, well, you're a nice guy, and I just don't think it's working out. You know, there's somebody out there for you. I just don't think it's me. In most cases, when they say that, what that means is they're not being fulfilled sexually. That's what that means in most cases. But she's just not going to come out and tell you that, you know, which is cool, which is perfectly fine. You should be cool with that because you can't please everybody. And in most cases, both parties know if know how things is going, if things is progressing, you know, or not. You know, if we're honest with ourselves, you know if you're doing a good job, or if somebody is whacking the sack, you know. So it's all good. You should be fine with that, right? So that's how it is in the early stages of the dating game or whatever, with a man or with a woman. Now, if you're in a long-term relationship with a woman, what usually happens is the longer you're together, the expectation tends to rise, right? So what happens, now there's a lot of things that happens in a relationship. Financially, you're spending so much time together, you got the kids, there's a lot of responsibility going on, you know, a lot of stuff going on. So what happens is the expectations tend to rise, but the time that y'all actually engage in the sex is not as much as it used to be. The time is very limited. So that has a lot to do with it. So what happens is a lot of guys get to a point where they said, you know, I need help. I need support, you know, from another guy or something. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of guys look at it like this. They don't want to break up the family. They don't want to break up the family structure. They don't want the kids to grow up in another house, in a separate household, none of that stuff. So what happens in most cases, a lot of guys they'll start to explore other options. This is why a lot of guys go to swingers clubs or swingers private groups, or you know, or they'll have other relationships. They'll let their wife they give their rights like a rights of passage to have other relationships with other guys, because they say, hey, it's cheaper to keep her, and I want my kids in the same household. So, you know, they'll kind of, you know, there's a give and take there. A lot of couples will do that. Then you got some women, they'll just sneak out. They just sneak out. They'll just, you know, they'll take vacations. They'll go out of town. You know, they'll just do whatever to have relationships with other guys to be fulfilled, and it's strictly for sex. You know, so that usually happens. That happens a lot, really. You know, that happens a lot. So that's what usually happens if the sex is whack. You know, even if it's a short term or in the early beginning stages, and even in the long relationship stages, you know. If the sex is whack in the beginning, the woman usually cuts it off, and that relationship ends. If you're in a long-term relationship and the sex is not as well as it used to be and the woman's not being fulfilled, either you're going to have to make other arrangements, explore other options, and you got some women, they'll just sneak out. That's it, man. You know, some people say it's hard, but it's fair, but it is what it is out here today. But you got to keep in mind that you can't please everybody, male or female. It is what it is. And I wrote about a lot of this in my books, Love Can't Wait, which can be found on Amazon.com. And you get that free if you join my Players Club today. So if you like what you heard, subscribe to my channel. Check out my blog, ChooseYourRelationships.com. And if you got questions I got answers. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.